Hey everyone, and welcome back. So, I'm Tisha. I'm your go-to expert and SHRM certification coach. So, if you are preparing for the SHRM-CP or SCP, and maybe you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, don't worry because today I'm going to give you a few tips that should really get you on your way. Now, we know that the next testing window opens up May 1st. So, if you're planning to sit for the exam in that window, you want to start preparing now, okay? So that you make sure you just have plenty of time to do everything that you need to do and to really get prepared before exam day. So in today's video, we're diving into how to develop a study plan that actually works. I'm going to put y'all up on game. I'll let you know about my own step-by-step approach that's going to help you pass this exam with confidence. So let's go ahead and just get into it. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is to first assess where you stand. Now, before you start hitting the books, you need to know exactly where you stand. And this is what I like to think of as like a self audit, right? So, where are your strengths? Where do you need some extra love? And the first place that I started and that I would recommend that you start is with the SHRM body of applied skills and knowledge. And we know that as the SHRM BASK, right? This is going to lay out everything that you'll be testing on, from employee relations to talent acquisition to leadership. So take some time to really review it and get familiar with what's going to be covered on the exam. This should be one of the first things that you actually do. Now, SHRM has a copy of the BASK out there on their website, so it is free to download. Just go to the SHRM website, download the BASK, and start reviewing that. If I was you, I would even print it out, right? So that you have it as kind of your tool and resource as you move forward. So the other thing I would say is that before you really dig into your preparation, take a practice test, right? And that's going to really gauge where you are today. And you want to take a practice test so that you know where to start. This is going to be a game-changing step for you. The practice test is going to help you figure out which areas are you already solid in, which areas need more focus, and then it'll also help you get used to the types of questions that SHRM will ask you on the exam, right? It's going to help you get used to the style of question and really make the exam itself feel way less intimidating. So if you're a part of Cultivate HR Certification Prep Program, then you know that we offer both a pre and post test as well as tons of questions throughout the course to ensure that you feel confident and ready to go. So if you want to learn more about that course, I'm going to leave some information in the description below that you can check out. But don't go there right now, okay? Let me give you the rest of these tips and you can go back to it at the end of the video. Now, the other part of preparing for this exam that I think is really important is thinking about your mindset. Mindset is going to be a huge part of this journey, especially after taking that practice test. I think this is where I recognize a lot of students tend to freak out, right? They've taken the practice test and they might be feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know any of this stuff. But listen, the practice test is just the starting point. It is not where you finish. And since we're starting early, right, then we know that we have time to really look at the areas where we might need to put in a little bit more effort to focus on. So if you didn't score where you wanted to when you took that practice test, well, good, right? Because that will help you figure out what you need to focus on. Instead of seeing that practice test as a setback, use it as a roadmap, right? It's going to be your guide to success. As you go through this journey, remember, stay calm, stay focused, and really trust that process. The next tip that I want to say is to, as you start to get into your practice, right? You've taken your pre-assessment, you know what areas you need to focus on. You've spent a little bit of time trying to get your mindset right. Then you want to look at setting some goals, right? This is not a short journey, right? I always say that taking this test or preparing for this exam is really more like a marathon than a sprint, right? So you want to start with creating some goals for yourself. And we know we need to make SMART goals, right? SMART goals are, if you remember, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? So instead of saying something like, oh, I need to study HR laws, you can make it more of a SMART goal by saying, I'm going to review key employment laws for 1 hour every Monday, and then I'll take a practice quiz on that section every Friday, right? So you see how saying something like, I just need to study HR laws or employment laws, you've now taken that idea, that goal, and made it more succinct for you so that it is creating essentially a roadmap for you. And remember, when we are creating these goals, we have to be realistic with this portion, right? Life is going to life. We know that life doesn't stop just because you're studying for this exam. You may have work, you may have family responsibilities, you may have other responsibilities. And so your study goals need to make sure that they fit into your life goals, right? Be realistic about how much time can you actually commit? Where can't you commit, right? Where are you going to have strains, and just make adjustments in your schedule for that. I would also say, make sure you reverse engineer your study plan, right? And so what do I mean by that? What I mean is that start with the end, start with your exam date. So if you don't know right now when you want to take the exam, maybe you haven't registered yet, I think that's fine, but have an idea in your mind. The exam period goes from May 1st to mid-July, right? So maybe you say, all right, I want to take my exam by June, by the end of June. So if you're starting with that in mind, then you can work backwards to set those weekly goals to help you determine how many weeks do I have till exam day, and really break down the topics that you need to review and to study into those manageable chunks so that you can get to it by the time you want to take the exam, right? By exam day. And when you're making this study plan for yourself, prioritize what you're going to study based on those strengths and weaknesses, right? So instead of trying to tackle everything at once, because we know there is a lot of material that gets covered on this exam, you really need to map out a plan and create this timeline based on, what you need to enforce when. If you have strong areas, you're going to spend a little bit less time on that and maybe focus and spend more time reinforcing those weaker areas, right? I would also say it's very important to block out dedicated study time in your calendar and commit to a routine, right? Treat your study sessions like you do work, right? Block the time off. If you're an early riser and you're most productive in the morning, maybe you need to get up a little bit earlier to block some time off so you're fresh. If you are the kind of person who at night you really get a lot of energy, then maybe you need to block your time off at night. But make sure that you're factoring, what works for you. When are you your best self? When does your normal schedule allow for those blocks of time to really put in some prep work? I would also say, when you're going through reviewing your material, make sure you switch up how you're studying, right? So you may need to read a little bit. You may need to watch some videos, take some practice questions. You might need to be in a study group so that you can hear others' perspectives. But whichever way you learn best, try to mix it up so that you're getting a little bit of each different type of study prep. Okay. And that's really just going to help you reinforce the material as you're going through it. Now, I know we talked about taking a pretest in the beginning, but I would also suggest that you make sure at least midway through, right, your study period, that you take another practice test. And honestly, towards the end, that you take a practice test. You need to, at a minimum, take one in the beginning and take one at the end. But if you give yourself enough time, you can actually take two. So a pretest, a mid-test, and a post-test, right? Because that's going to help you just make sure you're continually having a pulse on where you're getting better and where those strengths are, or where you may need to continue to study. The other thing I would say is that make sure you create some checkpoints to track your progress, right? Regularly check in to see if your current plan needs adjusting. Are you on track, right? Did you get sick last week and you missed something because you had the flu or the kids had something or whatever, right? It is okay to adjust your schedule. And I actually would recommend that you make adjustments to your schedule, but just do it rather sooner than later, right? Don't keep thinking, oh, I'm going to catch up, I'm going to catch up, I'm going to catch up. If you see that that 2 weeks in, you still haven't caught up from what you wanted to do 2 weeks ago, then that means you need to pivot and you need to readjust that schedule. Okay. No coach is going to be able to tell you what works best for you. You have to really take into account your lifestyle, your study habits, when you're most effective, right? And you need to make sure that you're factoring those things in when you're creating your study plan. And don't be afraid to make adjustments. The other thing I would say is take breaks, right? This is a big test. There's lots of materials. Make sure that as you're studying that you make time to stretch, stand up, take a walk. Don't let it get you too far off track, right? If you're only supposed to take a 10-minute break, set yourself a timer, take a break, go walk in the other room, get something to eat, go outside. Give yourselves these breaks. Your brain needs it to help process the information, and it's also going to help you with momentum and being able to keep going. Okay. With that said, do not cram. I know you hear people say, oh, I studied for a week, I studied for 2 weeks. Do not cram, right? This is not college finals, okay? Last minute cramming may have helped you in the short term in college, but it is not going to lead to long-term retention. And the key to success for an exam like this is going to be spaced repetition, studying over a period of time to make sure that the information has really sunk in. This is a competency exam, right? It's not just a quick remembering exam. It's not like you're going to study for a week and then you're just going to remember everything. You have to make sure that you understand how the terms and concepts that you're learning about are applied in day-to-day HR work, right? So do not try to cram for this exam. Really try to give yourself enough time to make sure that you can fit in all of the preparation that you actually need, okay? And I talked a little bit earlier about mindset, but I want to talk about it again because I want to just say that mindset is crucial when you're preparing for this exam. So, first and foremost, you have to trust this process. You won't master everything overnight, right? That's why cramming doesn't work. Consistency is key, making sure you're doing those small daily efforts. Those things are going to compound over time and help you yield big results on exam day. And if you try to just smush too much into it really fast, really quickly, that's not going to help you. The other thing that I would like to say is like mindset is so important because you can control, your mindset can help you control your habits, right? There are going to be some things that come up during this preparation exam that you can't control, right? You can control your study habits, you can control your effort, you can control your mindset, but you can't control how difficult the questions are going to be. You can't control what specific questions you're going to get, right? So instead of aiming for perfection, focus on preparation and progress, right? And utilize your mindset to really remember that you've got this, right? You can do this, that you are putting in the work now for success later. I remember, and I'll just tell y'all real quick, when I was taking my exam, after I did, the exam is broken up into these two parts, right? So you go through the first 67 questions, you have an opportunity for a break, and then you go to the next 67 questions. So after I did the first section, and I was sitting there and I thought, I don't know if I did too well on that, right? Like I was like, what was that? And then I had to say, no, we don't. You have prepared for this. You've got this. Take a deep breath. Give yourself a few minutes. Remember that you know this material. And when I took that time to just reset my mindset and I did that second set of questions, I felt so much more confident in the second set of questions than I did the first one, right? And ultimately, I passed this exam, right? And so, mindset is key. It is really helpful in so many types of spaces, but it's going to be critical for this exam as well. We talked about making sure that you take some breaks, right? That you study in bite-sized chunks, right? Instead of trying to fit everything or figure everything out all at once. But I would also say, make sure you celebrate yourself. right? If you set a goal to study for 1 hour every morning and on the weekend, you're like, yes, I did it. Acknowledge those small wins, right? Because that is going to help you maintain the momentum. If you got off track, know that that's okay because, as I said, life is going to life, right? Things are going to happen. But it is also good to remember that if you get off track, that you have a plan and that you reset to get back on track, right? Stay positive, keep a positive perspective as you go through practicing. Self doubt can creep in. Self doubt will probably creep in as you're doing these questions and you might not be getting them right. Instead of focusing on, oh, I don't know this information, this is ridiculous, use those as opportunities to say, okay, I got that one wrong. Let me write that topic down. I know I need to go back and review that, right? Review it from a positive lens so that you can keep things in perspective. Remind yourself that this is nothing more than just a test. It is not a reflection of you, of who you are. It is just a test to test your competency in this particular area. And when we know that this is something that we can learn. This is something that we can get. This is something that we can figure out, right? So if you are capable, you are prepared, and you are ready for this challenge ahead. And remember, nobody has to go through this journey alone, right? Lean on your support system, whether it's a study group or a mentor or just another HR professional. Having a network of encouragement and accountability can really make the difference. In our certification prep course, we make sure that we have a network of HR professionals that are going to support you while you're going along on this journey. Also, remember the power of visualization, right? And you can use that power of visualization to help you build your confidence, right? Picture yourself walking into that exam, feeling prepared, answering those questions with ease, and ultimately celebrating your success, right? This kind of mental rehearsal can really help reduce your anxiety. It can help reinforce your readiness, and it can help, you be a little bit more calm so that when you go into that space, you are ready to take it on. And then finally, one of the things I want to say is give yourself grace, right? Some days you're going to be super productive, right? You're going to be like, I did that. Other days you won't. And that's completely normal. Don't beat yourself up. You can't figure it all out in a day. Instead, acknowledge, like, oh, today wasn't a great day. I acknowledge it, but I'm going to reset and I'm going to get back on track tomorrow, or I'll get back on track in 2 days, right? The key is that you keep moving forward with confidence and determination. So, y'all, while you are preparing for this exam, I said it earlier, this exam is a marathon, not a sprint, right? But with the right study plan, you can absolutely crush it. Know where you stand, set those realistic goals, and stick to a structured but flexible plan that's going to help keep your mindset right. You got this, okay? If you are ready to take your SHRM prep to the next level, you can join my certification prep course. Information in the description. And if you want even more support, my prep course is designed to guide you through every step of the way. So click that link, learn more about the course, and let us help you get certified. Thank you for hanging with me today. If you found this information helpful, go ahead, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. So until next time, stay positive.